Hi, my name is Usman. I'm a photographer at Sonder Creative and senior writer at fstoppers.com, and today I'm going to be talking about the Zhiyun Weebill Lab Gimbal and why I think this is the best gimbal that you can buy. Seriously, this gimbal is just so good, and I've used a lot of gimbals. I've used something like 15, maybe 16 gimbals extensively, and I currently own about 6, maybe 7 gimbals, so I'm saying this with a lot of experience, and I have to say this is the best gimbal I've used. It's by no means a perfect gimbal. It does have a bunch of issues and a few frustrations when it comes to usability, but overall it's really, really good. First thing is the size. The size of this gimbal is tiny, especially when you're comparing it to other gimbals that are in the same kind of market segment. This gimbal is really small. It's so small, I can put it in a messenger bag with a full frame camera and a couple of lenses, and away I go. It's just so convenient because it means that I'm not having to carry like a big backpack with a ton of gear and accessories just so I can go out and shoot. I can just have one little messenger bag, one camera, couple of lenses and a gimbal. The other thing I love about this gimbal is the fact that it's got lock mechanisms for basically all of the movements, so balancing is so easy with this gimbal. I'm gonna say that this gimbal is probably the easiest gimbal to balance. If you've never used a gimbal before, this is probably the one that you need to be looking at, because even beginners are going to find it really easy to balance. What you can do with the lock mechanisms is that if, let's say, you're only balancing the tilt, you can lock off all the other movements and just balance the tilt. If you're going to be balancing the pan, same again, lock off all the other movements and just balance the pan. Really, really useful stuff. Now, I did try filming without balancing this gimbal because it's just one of those things I like to test. Sometimes I don't have time to balance everything, I just want to go out and shoot, so it's one of those things I like to test on any gimbal. Unfortunately, this gimbal, you really do need to balance it, because if you don't, it just doesn't work. The camera gets all jerky and it doesn't, it's just not that good in terms of smooth footage. So I do recommend that you balance it. Fortunately, because of those lock mechanisms, it's really quick to balance the gimbal and get the camera right, so you're not spending that much time in terms of setup, and you can spend more time actually going out and filming. Speaking of filming, the footage that you can produce with this gimbal is exceptionally good. It is really, really good. Once you balance the gimbal properly, the footage is incredibly smooth. It's got this really nice cinematic look to it. It doesn't have those odd jerky clips or those odd movements that some other gimbals have. It's just really, really good. When it comes to specs, this gimbal has been rated up to 3 kilograms. Now, I would take that with a pinch of salt, because I'm not doubting its capacity. It's more to the fact that you're not really going to be putting massive rigs on this gimbal. It's not designed for cinema cameras or huge DSLRs. It's more designed for mirrorless cameras and smaller, lighter setups. So although it does have that capacity for 3 kilograms, most people are going to be using it up to about 2 kilograms max, which means that you're going to be using like a Sony a7R III type camera with like a small prime or something to that extent, purely because you're probably not going to be able to balance those really heavy lenses on this gimbal. The great thing about having that higher weight capacity is the fact that in those normal ranges between 1 and 2 kilograms, the footage is going to be far more stable, and that's what I think the higher end weight capacities are really there for, or what it's really useful for. One of my favorite things about this gimbal is the fact that you can attach a tripod, or a mini tripod I should say, to the bottom of the gimbal and also to the back of the gimbal, which is extremely useful for a couple of reasons. One, it improves the ergonomics when it comes to actually handling the gimbal, because ergonomics without the mini tripod are a little bit sucky, and I'm going to go into that later on in the video, but ergonomically speaking, attaching the tripod is a massive improvement. And also, attaching a mini tripod onto the back of the gimbal means that you can go into underslung mode really, really easily, so you're not having to like do that weird twisty thing for the gimbal midway through a shot. You could just go from normal mode to underslung mode on the fly. I absolutely love that about this gimbal, and what I tend to do is I tend to have a mini tripod attached on both sections, because I don't want to be faffing around taking off the the tripod and attaching onto the other side midway through filming. I just want it there, so I have a tripod attached on both ends at all times. Going back to the point about ergonomics, this gimbal kind of sucks when it comes to ergonomics. The buttons are not my favorite. They're a little bit too flat, they get in the way, so if you're not holding the gimbal on the mini tripod at the bottom, then you're going to have to hold it on the actual handle, and you've got lots of buttons there. it just doesn't work. If you're trying to hold the gimbal on the actual gimbal handle, then you are gonna knock some buttons, you're gonna press one of those joysticks, you're gonna move things, you're gonna do something to affect the actual gimbal and the footage that you're trying to produce. So in terms of ergonomics, it's a little bit sucky. I don't like the joystick. The joystick is something that I really don't like. It's just a little bit too flat, and whenever I tried using it, it's just not that precise. It's just not that... It's not effective when it comes to getting any kind of footage. Finally, there are a couple of things that I thought were genuine issues with this gimbal. First thing is the fact that it only comes with 2 batteries, and I wish it would have come with 4 because battery life in this gimbal wasn't the best. I thought that it was good. It wasn't the best, but it's not bad. It's just somewhere in between. If they had included 2 more batteries with this gimbal, it just would have been far more convenient, and maybe even a charger that can charge 4 batteries together. Second thing is the smartphone clamp. In all the advertisements and all the pictures that you see online, the smartphone clamp isn't grayed out, so a lot of people will be believing or thinking or led to believe that you get the smartphone clamp when you buy the gimbal, which is not the case. Zhiyun really should have thought this through before they did this, and I really think that they've, I'm not going to say misled people, but I just think that, you know, people thought one thing and it wasn't the case. I really think that Zhiyun needs to be including the smartphone clamp in with the gimbal, and for customers who have already bought it, they should offer it for free, or they should send one out for free. I really do think that. The last point, this is somewhat of a minor issue, and that's the case. I really don't like the case that this gimbal comes in. A lot of the manufacturers are going for this grey kind of foam type case, and I hate this case. It's horrible. It doesn't close properly, just doesn't feel that great. The quality is quite bad, and I think that maybe the manufacturers are trying to save some money on the case so that they can put more money towards the gimbal, which is, you know, fair enough in some respects, but still, the case sucks. I wish they could have had a better case, especially for a gimbal that's, what, $599? But, you know, I guess you can't have everything. Ultimately, even with all the faults that I've just pointed out, this is still the best gimbal that you can buy. It's just so good. More and more people are moving towards mirrorless systems of lighter setups, so it makes sense for manufacturers like Zhiyun to make gimbals that are specific to mirrorless cameras, and this gimbal, if you are a mirrorless shooter, this is the best gimbal that you can buy. I've tried some others, and I mean, my previous recommendation was the Zhiyun-tech A1000, which I still use. I still think it's a fantastic gimbal, and for the price, it's incredible. So if you haven't got the money to be able to spend on the Weebill Lab, I still recommend the A1000. But if you want the absolute best, this is definitely the one. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them below. Hit the like button, please subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you.